Well, hello. Welcome back to All of the Day. Everyone was sick last week except for myself, and I'm not going to do a solo show. So, how are you guys now?
Feeling better. Feeling better.
What about you, Cheston? You feeling better?
Yeah, I'm mostly better.
Is Cheston Jr. feeling better?
Oh, he's much better. He recovered much quicker than I did. I still have a little bit of I don't know, snottiness, but
Well, you always have a snottiness to you.
yeah.
Since we have kind of busy week here, let's just get going. I'm actually going to start talking because I have a feeling Cheston and I are going to talk about the same game later, so I'll just save one of my games for when he talks about it. So let me first start with No More Heroes 3. I would have talked about No More Heroes 2 and Travis Strikes Again, but there's not much else to say about 2, and Travis Strikes Again sucks except for the story. Like everything about the game is good except for the actual playing it. That's one of those.
My favorite type of game.
I haven't played one of those in a long time. It's interesting because like the whenever a new game comes out and all the hipsters are like, "Oh, this one sucks," it is currently cool to like Travis Strikes Again, which I think it's stupid, but whatever. So, No More Heroes 3, for those who don't know, this is a franchise that's been dead without a proper entry for over a decade now. It's been a long time coming. No More Heroes is like a wacky sort of game where you fight a bunch of assassins trying to climb the assassin ranks, and there you go. No More Heroes 1 story, as I've stated on here before, is very simple. It's Travis wants to get laid. 2 story was his best friend gets killed, but he also wants to get laid again. And 3 story, unfortunately, is not. He does not want to get laid again. I hate to break it to you. He breaks the cycle. Aliens are trying to take over the world,
And he
and
doesn't want to bone them?
no. Well, he's actually married. Happened off
Oh,
screen. There's 10 assassins, worldwide assassins, and you're trying to climb the universal assassin rankings to take out the most badass alien in the universe that's trying to take over the Earth. It sounds zany, and it is zany. It has probably the best boss fights in the series. Like each boss fight, I think is memorable and interesting because that's where the strength of the whole franchise lies. I would say like immediately after the first boss, I'm like, well, this one was better than everything in No More Heroes 2, which was kind of mashy. So in that regard, it totally fits in. Unfortunately, they did not listen to my Suda51 did not listen to my podcast from 2 weeks ago where I said the open world sucks because there's an open world in this game that sucks again because there's still nothing to do in it except for go to mission hubs and like do things. Like it's so stupid. I don't know why it's there, but you know, you rock on, you wacky diamond. The game's a lot of fun. It's really wacky, a little too much so at times because I feel like half the game references like a Japanese filmmaker named Mite, which I know nothing about, despite being a total weeb. So like after each act break, they like go on a tangent talking about his movies. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And I googled this, and it's a real person. So it's just him referencing something he really likes. Which one I respect the localization didn't like dumb it down and put something I'd recognize. But on the other hand, like as an American, I have no idea what the shit's going on. But other than that, though, like it's just a lot of fun. I think it was worth the wait.
is
It's
it
thankfully short, like 12 hours long. So
is it true that it looks and feels like a PS2 game?
I would say there are parts of it that look sub PS2, quite frankly.
Okay.
The call of I don't know. It's like Call of Battle. It's like a Call of Duty parody hub area with Fortnite font. So whatever. It looks like legitimately like a mediocre looking Dreamcast game running at like 280i maybe. Like it looks pitiful.
Does it look like Ooga Booga?
Yeah, it looks like Ooga Booga. uh,
Thanks.
so actually, like this is gonna sound harsh, but I've been playing Sonic Adventure stuff lately because I'm fixing to go on vacation and I don't want to start anything
Be
super
careful.
hardcore.
Be careful, you can't take back what you say.
And there are parts of Sonic Adventure 1 that look better than No More Heroes 3.
I can't believe you said it.
And Sonic Adventure 1 is not, if you don't know what that is, it is not the most technically impressive game. It is kind of janky. And 2 blows it out of the water, graphically speaking. So,
Can
um,
I
go ahead.
can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Is No More Heroes 3 Switch exclusive?
Yes.
And where are you playing Sonic Adventure 1?
I was playing it on the Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a port of a crappy GameCube port of a Dreamcast game. Like, they did no work to it.
That's right. They
So
ported the
what you're
GameCube
saying
port.
is the Switch is inferior to the OG Xbox.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In this regard, at least.
When will those Nindudoos learn?
It also doesn't. I think it tries to hit 60, but it doesn't quite hit it. But this game, yeah, it makes the Switch feel like ancient hardware. I'll tell you that much. It made me think like I don't know. I've been watching South Park recently. There's an episode where Cartman goes to the future to get the Wii, and the people of the future call Wii primitive hardware, and he gets offended. And I'm like, yeah, the Wii was primitive hardware like 4 years after it came out, and now the Switch already feels like this ancient primitive hardware. I love it. I play it a lot. If you peep my Disgaea playtime, because I leave it on idle a lot, it's getting sickening. But it is ancient, and that's why I kind of want the Steam Deck, because it does what the Switch does, but like is better. So,
Well, we'll see about that.
well, we'll see. Yes, we will see. But on paper, spec-wise, it is better. But
Well, yes. The Switch has rapid aging syndrome,
yes.
a la Snake.
Now it will be funny when I can emulate Switch stuff on the Steam Deck, and I can just play Switch but better. But
It's funny though, because when the Switch first came out, it seemed like magic.
it came out at a weird time where like it was definitely graphically behind the PS4 and Xbox One, but the games that were on it weren't like so.
Yeah, and like Odyssey looked really good, and
Yeah.
Splatoon had a style that looked good, and Breath of the Wild wasn't like beautiful, but again, like the style did a lot for it. So
But as graphics like rapidly progress, like if it's not a Nintendo published game where they have like standards and they go for art style over graphic fidelity, it tends to look rough and play rough. So I think we're about ready for a new Switch.
yeah, Switch OLED,
Yeah, that's what I meant.
1 month and counting, man.
Yep. Yeah, we're almost there.
Count down the days.
The finish on No More Heroes 3, I think the game is really good, despite its flaws, as we have mentioned, the performance and whatnot. I think this game's great. I had a lot of fun with it, so I had no real complaints. It's actually like a true successor to the first two, which I was not necessarily expecting. So, if you enjoyed the franchise, don't hesitate. But otherwise, it might be too weird for you.
All two of you.
Yes.
Listen.
Yeah, my wife caught me playing a little bit of it, and she's like, "This game's really weird." I was like, "Yep, it is."
Yeah, it's an odd one.
Yeah.
I like it. I that's a series I want to get back into because I like the first quite a bit.
I guess one thing is that like, you're fighting aliens, so as a result, like I feel like it's less over the top blood gory because it's like neon colored blood and stuff. Whereas I was coming off No More Heroes 1 and 2, where it's like rain of blood and coins everywhere, kind of a different feel. But I mean, that's just like a nitpick. It's still violence, it's just violence against non-humanoids. But I also played one other thing, but I'm pretty sure Cheston is going to talk about it. So let's go with Setzer then. Let's hear what you've been playing.
I've been playing Guild Wars 2.
Oh my god, going crazy.
Yep. I have a checkered history with this game. My wife was required to play this for grad school back in 2016. And I went along for the ride.
Good husbands.
I've played many MMOs and kind of like online games, and I have to say Guild Wars 2 is like, I don't want to say a tragedy, but the fact that this game is like so underappreciated, not only that, but it gets so much right, and everything it gets right is like underpinned by something it gets so terribly wrong. It's a game you want to love. The game's art style, in a lot of like the really early stuff from 2012, it looks kinda, iffy, but not terrible. But in a lot of the newer stuff they put out, it's like really nice looking in its own way, right? Within the context of a 9-year-old MMO. But the game runs so bad. I mean, we talked about this, the three of us, a little bit last night. But it's like 32 gigabytes RAM recommended
which is
for this
insane.
9-year-old MMO. Right? And it still runs really, really, really bad.
I haven't looked it up, but I assume FF14's requirements are lower. So
Yeah. I mean, even Cyberpunk's requirements are lower.
yeah,
At least on the RAM front. And part of that is, being such an old game, it's not really built with a modern architecture in mind. So it can't really make full use of the resources that a modern computer likely has available to it. And they are taking steps with that. They recently started demoing DirectX 11 in the game, which should help, but it's like,
Aren't we
how
on
much is it gonna
DX12 at
help?
this point?
Yeah, they're up to DX. Well, Microsoft is up to DX12, right?
Okay.
But it's DX12 is a lot more revolutionary, whereas 11 is kind of more evolutionary. So I can see them, wanting to make that jump to 11 and then maybe 12 in the future, because it requires a lot more, from my understanding, a lot more under the hood work. The other side of that is I'm praising the art style here, right?
yeah.
But this game, I have never seen a game sell out on its art style like Guild Wars, because when you're like not microtransacting for armor skins, you're running around in a burlap sack, right? But if you are willing to set down like $20-30 for armor skins, it's like the gaudiest, most hideous, insane thing I've ever seen in a game. They have horn-rimmed glasses and striped arm warmer things, right? And stockings and high heels you can buy, and devil wings and angel wings that just float behind your character. And you can make your character like glow and have bees flying around him and honeycomb effects when he runs, and all this wild shit. And it like compounds and compounds on it. You have people who are like, I mean, they've got to have dropped at least $100 on, armor skins in this game, and it reminds me of like DeviantArt. You remember when we were younger and DeviantArt was like the place to be if you wanted to make a dog character that
Yes.
was like rainbow colored.
I remember that it became an inflation porn website, but I do remember.
Thanks to good old Tom Preston.
Exactly.
The mounts are the same way. There are 0 mount skins available to earn through the game.
Really?
You have to buy a special mount skin loot box, which has a random skin in it.
That's insidious because, like, when I play an MMO, the mounts are what I care about the most.
Yeah. 0 mount skins to get in this game.
Oof.
It's all loot boxes for mount skins. And you can't get those loot boxes in game, except for once a month-ish, you'll get a Black Lion chest, which has random like microtransaction items in it. But you also need the Black Lion key. And guess what? You can buy the keys for only like, $2, I think.
Wow.
But you have to buy gems to buy the keys. And gems are only sold in $10 increments.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So what they invented with this, like, random shit drop every month is like a loot crate, but for video games. Even
Yeah.
more so. Like, it's just
Yeah,
like,
I mean, they actually do have now a system called supply drops where you pay like $30 for the microtransaction cosmetic supply drop. And it's like each week you get exciting new cosmetic items.
ugh. I gotta be honest with you boys, like, cosmetic items do nothing for me. Like, I don't really care how my character looks, unless I'm, like, earning it myself. If I buy it with, like, real human money, it doesn't feel like I earned it.
Paid cosmetic items do not. But keep in mind, I imagine that a lot of the people who play this is like their thing, right? Like this is the only thing they get into.
Yeah,
So
we'll
I
get
guess
to
for
that.
for them, their looks are probably like essential to it. The same way that for Fortnite, those kittywinks who only play Fortnite are obsessed with the new skins because they have to find some way to change it up.
And I respect that if you've earned them, but I think like
Oh, I didn't say I respect it.
well, if you well no, but I'm saying like if you earn the skin, like if you get it like through like a big achievement in the
Oh
game.
no,
like
don't get me wrong. I agree with you. That is the only way I'll ever fiddle with cosmetics. I will never drop a dime.
Because back in the WoW days, like you see someone with like some really like tiers 3 armor or whatever, you're like, oh my god, that guy went through the raid. He's hardcore. Like it was cool. But when I see someone like paid gear they got off like the Blizzard shop or something, that's just an example. I'm like, oh, you're a loser. You spent $20 on something and that's just looks cool. I don't know. I just don't relate, I guess.
Yeah, it's brought some of
Yeah.
those real-world socioeconomics into the gaming space, and it's not
Well,
always super
it
fun.
doesn't stop there, because in Guild Wars 2, not only do you pay for skins, you pay for convenience.
Oh god.
So it's like, do you want more bag space? Pay up. Do you want more space in your bank? It's only $10. Do you want to, like build templates for your character options and stuff, your talents? That's $5 for one. Do you want to be able to access your bank anywhere? Yep, we can sure do that for $5. Harvesting tools, like the little scythe you use to harvest plants, those break unless you pay real money to get the unbreakable ones. And even those are cosmetic now because it's like, oh, get the new Cosmos Astro harvesting tools. And when you go to harvest a little mining node, your guy like channels star bolts from the sky to come down and strike this vein of copper. It's ridiculous.
Look, I mean, at this point, like, no matter how good the game plays or whatever, I could just not get into it. I can't respect this kind of bullshit. It's just too much.
It seems like a far cry from the first Guild Wars, because that game was free to play, and the way they monetized it was they released new campaigns, once every year or two. I mean, it's not like Final Fantasy XIV, because that's a monthly subscription, but their big driving force was story content. So,
well, they do similar.
hearing this
Guild
be
Wars
such
too.
like a ridiculous money hole is kind of crazy.
Yeah, they do something similar in Guild Wars 2 called the Living World, where it's like, okay, the base game is free. You pay for the expansions that come out every couple years, and then in between those things, they've released Living World chapters, where it's like, okay, Living World Season 4, Episode 1, Episode 2, Episode 3, and if you don't log in when those things... So if you do log in when those things are first released, you get them for free. If you don't log in, you have to wait for like an annual event to get them for free, or you can buy them. But the thing is, a lot of extra features and a lot of the big money-making spots are in those like living world things. So they're incentivized to inflate the gold economy and all that, so that they can make you want to get in on the new gold farm in the new living world, right? Or get the new mastery abilities in the new living world, stuff like that. And if you don't like play them sequentially, the story that you do get in the expansion packs you pay for makes no sense whatsoever. I have both the expansion packs for this game. I bought them back in like 2016, 2017. And when you go from like the base game story to the first expansion, it's like all the characters you meet in the base game are not relevant, and they've been replaced with all these new characters that you're not introduced to.
Oh.
So you have no clue who these people are and why they're so friendly with you. And then, when you go to the second expansion, it's like they're always referencing and reminiscing about all this stuff you haven't done. You have no clue what they're talking about. And they're like, oh yes, you recall the events of Living World Season 3, Episode 4, set into motion what you're doing now. It's like, no, I don't. I have no clue what you're talking about.
Oh, that sounds... it sounds rough. I kind of enjoy the way FF14 does it. Like, that wacky Alphanaud is always around. But I don't know. I feel like if you're going to do, like, story-based content, you should, reward players for playing through your story by keeping some people around, maybe.
So what is the thing that keeps this game like afloat 9 years later? Like, why do people still play this?
The core gameplay is like when you're moving your guy and you're shooting your spells and shit.
Mhm.
The best I've seen in an MMO,
Okay.
hands down. The character customization with like talents and stuff,
Mhm.
and like the different weapons you can pick up and different spells you can slot in.
Mhm.
Best I've seen in an MMO, hands down. The world that you can explore, they've got all these little things like points of interest and teleport points and vistas and mastery points and hero points. And I actually really do enjoy going around the different maps and clearing that stuff up and unlocking all that stuff. Especially with mounts, because Guild Wars 2 also has the best mounts in an MMO, hands down.
Mhm.
Where, like, you know, in WoW or Final Fantasy, a mount is just a speed boost. In Guild Wars 2, it's like an actual vehicle where, like, it has momentum and it has turn radius, and they each have, like, different abilities and different movement styles. So, like, the Raptor, he can leap quickly and really far distances forward, whereas the Springer can jump really high vertically.
Mhm.
And the Skimmer is like a hovering manta ray, and he can glide around. Stuff like that. They each have their own niche, and it really does turn each map into kind of like a big jungle gym, and it's really fun to get around them. There's like no vertical progression, so like I came back after 4-ish years, and all my gear was still up to date and relevant.
Oh,
I didn't
wow.
have to go grind gear. I could just play the new stuff and have fun.
I like that.
Yeah, and
Destiny could learn from it.
we'll get to that. You know, Guild Wars 2 also does a really good job of like making sure you can get the rewards you want and you know how to get them. So like there's tons of, you know, achievements you can do to unlock certain things. You know, you can play different game modes like PvP, World v World, PvE, you know, fractals, dungeons, strikes, all sorts of different stuff, and you can do what you want to do and reach your goals, right? So it's not like other games where it's like, okay, if you want this, you have to play 9,000 hours of PvP. No, not in Guild Wars 2. So you can do what you want to do at your own speed, how you want to do it, and get what you want most of the time. That's what I really like about that game.
Well, that makes sense. It's a
Yeah.
shame that, like so many other things, it decides to dilute all that with a bunch of nonsense. Just charge a monthly fee.
Yeah.
I'll do it. If it's good, I'll pay it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's why this game is such a tragedy. Is if they would just lighten up a little bit, if they would just put like 3 or 4 mount skins in the game, if they would just give you like 2 or 3 bank tabs by default, this game would feel so much better. Instead, you know, it's like the tighter you squeeze, the more star systems will slip through your fingers, right? You know, and this game still hits like 800k concurrent players each day, so it's not like it's a dead game.
It's a lot.
Yeah, but I feel like it will never really live up to its potential unless it kind of makes the experience more palatable for people who don't want to spend tons and tons of money on it.
There's always Guild Wars 3.
Yeah, we'll see about that. It took them 4 years to release one new expansion, so
Yeah.
And 2 itself had like a really labored development, I remember.
yeah,
I remember that
yeah.
too.
Yeah. Long in the making.
Yeah, I never played the first one because when I was in middle school, it was like you were in the Guild Wars camp or the World of Warcraft
That's
camp.
right. It was like that.
Yeah.
And let me tell you what, the Guild Wars people were insane.
Yeah, to me it was like when you go to a friend's house and they're like, you have a controller, they have one normal one and the Mad Catz controller. Like
hmm
Guild Wars to me felt like the Mad Catz controller of MMOs. It's like, oh, it's
Yeah.
all weird and shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was missing a lot of the quality of life that made WoW so easy to get into.
And here we are, how many years later, and it's still missing that kind of quality of life, right?
Well, I'd sooner play that than WoW, but
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
neither here nor there.
Well, for different reasons, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Cheston, what have you been up to?
Well, let's start by jumping into our shared experience, shall we?
Yes.
Okay. Now you've finished this. I have not. So remember that when we talk about it. So Psychonauts 2 came out between this last podcast and this podcast. And I think our general expectations, I was a little more optimistic, but to be honest, I was mostly just playing it because it was on Game Pass, and it was a 3D platformer.
Yeah, I believe my quotes were, "Time has passed this game by." It had an Invader Zim style sense of humor, and I did not think it would hang. I think I felt that it would be probably mediocre, but nothing beyond that.
Well, I think you were very wrong.
Oh, I was extremely wrong.
I think you could not have been more wrong.
I was way off base. I will be
Yeah.
the first to admit.
This game is a huge surprise for
It's
me.
amazing. It's an amazing game.
It it is so surprisingly well made. The comparison I was thinking of earlier was that like the original is like a high-end DreamWorks movie. So like maybe it's got like a fun idea, but some of the writing is a little rough around the edges and it looks a little clunky, you know. You can always tell a DreamWorks movie. The animation looks alright, but there's always these little things that go, huh? That doesn't look good. Psychonauts 2 is like a Pixar movie. It is it is beautifully animated. It plays so much better than the original.
Yeah.
The writing, you know, it has its moments that where it like kind of goes back to the well from the old game, but overall, like it's actually written like a pretty good kids movie.
Yeah,
to be honest.
the writing is actually extremely sentimental and heartfelt. And
Yes,
like,
and when it's funny, like or when it's trying to be funny, a lot of the times it actually does hit. Like I have certainly grimaced a few times, which you know the original when I went back to play it earlier this summer, a lot of it was just like okay, like you know cool concept, I get it, but I don't really jive with this writing all the way. This game pretty much immediately, like the first world I was in, and every world since, I'm probably 4 or 5 stages deep. It's just gotten better.
yeah, there was only one character's writing that I didn't agree with, and it's okay to have like one zany character, and
Yeah.
that's all there really is. So whatever.
And the last world I played, like the last big world I played a small one afterwards, but the last big one I played, which is kind of like in the style of the Beatles' Yellow Submarine artwork, you know, cover. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, it's
That kind of weird, trippy style. like-
if for those that don't, well, for whatever reason, if you don't know what the Beatles are, think every color you can imagine and just like spray it on a wall. That's what this level
Psychedelic.
kind of looks like. Very psychedelic. Very
Yeah,
hippie.
and it is. When I finished it, I had to send Derek a text right away that said that is probably one of, if not the best stage in a platformer I have played
It's great.
in a good ass long time. Like
Yeah.
it is, it's and like my wife was there and she hasn't watched me play much of this game, but when I played that stage, like she wasn't even looking at her. She was with me the whole time, and it's like an hour and a half long. She was just as enamored as I was, and she didn't know anything about the characters or anything. It was
very
just
visually interesting.
it is. I mean, I don't know. Like I was just so taken aback. And then at one point, this game opens up, which I didn't expect. It goes from being like a pretty linear hub-based game to having this big open area that you can kind of dink around in at your leisure, and you can decide which storyline to pursue at a given time. And I'm not usually the kind of person to jive with that too much, but I mean, once that opened up, I probably spent the next 3-4 hours just wandering around that, finding NPCs, doing side quests, getting collectibles. Like, I really don't, like, the only thing I can say that I don't like about the game is that you have so many abilities and they're all useful, that, and you can only equip 4 at a time, so you spend a lot of time switching. But that's such a small complaint.
My complaint is that I don't necessarily love the combat.
You know, it's okay. It's not the showpiece, but they always make it. It's usually so quick.
But that's
that
the
I don't
thing,
think
though.
about it.
Like, I don't really like combat in 3D platformers. This is not a Psychonauts exclusive thing.
Yeah.
think I prefer my platformers to be platforming.
So
you
you
know?
didn't like Ratchet? Because Ratchet is like all
Well,
combat.
that's different.
Yeah,
I
okay.
honestly don't consider Ratchet a platform. I consider it an action.
All right. No, I think the game, like, it moves so well, like it's paced so exceptionally well that even when it gets you into a combat section and you maybe don't love it, it's over so quickly. that it's like, okay, whatever. Like,
Yes.
it doesn't ever drag. There was never one part like that stage I was talking about, an hour and a half long. It's easily the longest thing in the game so far.
It's the longest
And
thing in the game in general.
okay, and it wasn't like dragging. It was more like, holy shit, I can't believe this is still going, and I can't stop playing this until this is over because, I mean, it's just incredible. So, Psychonauts 2 is, I mean, heavy contender for me for my favorite game this year. It's and biggest surprise of the year easily for me.
Yeah, I should mention. I think I said that the game looked ugly, like screenshots of it and whatnot. In motion, looks fantastic.
Yeah, and it runs super smooth, which helps. Like, and a lot of things, like exciting things. There's a lot of great set piece moments, and when those are in motion, I mean, it just looks gorgeous. It looks like a next gen game. It does.
To me, it felt like I was playing a new PS2 game, which might sound like an insult, but I mean it is the highest form of praise. Like
No, and it's good. It's great.
I enjoy that sort of game a lot, and I cannot recommend it enough. I cannot believe I am saying this, but I think this is a fantastic, amazing game. So
Yeah, full stop. No like hesitation.
yeah,
It is fantastic.
yep.
It's great that 3D platformers are back.
Yes, the year of the 3D platformer. I can't believe I
We,
lived to see
we've,
it.
yes, we finally did it, Derek.
It's been 60 years, baby, but we're back.
We can emerge from those doldrums.
The
Getting
best
some
genre finally
great,
getting its respect.
getting some great hashtag content.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. So let's switch gears. So I talked about 12 minutes last week, or last time, right?
Yeah, 12 Days a Slave, whatever it's
Okay. So I finished it the night that we recorded. After we were done recording, I stayed up till midnight. I probably played 3 straight hours because I just had to finish it. I would like to uncork everything about this game because I can't talk about it without doing it. Is that okay?
That's fine, I don't care.
Setzer, you good with that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm gonna fully pull out the cork. I will say before I say anything, this I was so stricken by this game in so many different ways that I immediately had to write about it, and I did write some big long thing, and then I condensed that into a little short note to help me organize my thoughts because boy, there's a lot going on here. So let's start with. Okay, so last time I talked about it and I said that I loved it and a lot of the puzzle solving was very intuitive, like based on real world logic, and so it felt very good to move the story along. And I was right for the first part of the game. So the second half of the game that I played that night was extremely gamey. It was very much like an old school point and click adventure game, as in at some point I was just clicking on everything and just praying that it was the thing that advanced the story. And I did have to look up hints, because at some point, it was one of those things where some games are really meant to be played in short, like, you are meant to play them over a weekend or in a night, because otherwise you'll forget little details that are crucial. And this game is one of those, and that really bogged down the process and made the last little bit a little less fun. I was still enamored with the game because it's absolutely insane. But from the gameplay standpoint, it absolutely falls apart in the second half. It is just a very old school adventure game with some really silly puzzles. Like the FAQ I read, at one point after one of the long chains of logic, it just said, yeah. And I was like, yeah, I feel you. I get it. This is ridiculous. Okay, so that aside, let's talk about the story, because you have to hear this. Okay, let's start at the beginning. So you're a guy, right?
Okay, I think I can get behind that.
Okay, you're like this guy, and you come home, and your wife's there, and she's like, hey honey, she kisses you, I've bought your favorite dessert. It looks like Domino's lava cake. When you're hungry, let me know, because we're gonna chat. And so you have your lava cake, and you set the table, you get the candles going, turn on some music, and she's like, honey, I'm pregnant. And you're like, oh. And she's like, she reveals this by giving you a present, and inside the present is a onesie with the baby's name on it, Dahlia. This is important, remember this. Okay, so after a little bit, this guy comes in who looks kind of like Agent 47 from Hitman and sounds like Willem Dafoe, because it is Willem Dafoe. And he's like, hey, listen, you're under arrest. I'm a cop. You're under suspicion for the murder of your father. He's talking to your wife when he's saying this. And she's like, oh, what? I don't know what you're talking about. And he handcuffs her, handcuffs you, and then if you even move a muscle, which I did, knocks the shit out of you. And then you wake up 12 minutes back in the past before any of this happened. Right when your wife realizes you're home, kisses you, and tells you about lava cake. So that's the basic premise. This guy says your wife is a murderer. Obviously, you don't want to believe him, so you investigate. And so, what you discover by doing a variety of things, I did this by hiding in the closet long enough to hear her talk. There's this watch that she has from her father that this cop wants. And if you go back in time and show her this watch, which you know where it is because of living through the time loop, you'll get her to admit that she did kill her father. And that the guy is right. She'll say that her father hit her. He was in an affair or something. It's not super clear. And then she shot him. And then she ran away. And when she ran away, she came to you. And then you fell in love and all yada yada. She didn't know you before. And she points out that there's a picture on the refrigerator from her first night in the city when she met you. And that picture is marked with a date, which is New Year's Eve, December 31st of whatever year. Okay, so then you go back in time again, because you keep going back in time. This doesn't solve the time loop, even though you know your wife is the murderer. So you go back in time, you do whatever. Eventually, you realize that you can show the portrait to Agent 47 when you've tied him up on the ground. And he'll be like, okay, wait a minute, the date on this is New Year's Eve. But New Year's Eve is the day that her father was shot. So she couldn't have shot her father because this picture was taken on that day. And, whatever. It couldn't have happened. She couldn't have gone from wherever she lived to here in a day and killed her father. It's just not possible. This disproves that she killed her father. So then you go back in time, and then you show your wife, and you say, listen, this picture disproves everything. Tell me everything you know. And she doesn't know too much. She just tells you that she shot him on, Christmas, and, that picture was taken New Year's, and that's when he was actually shot, apparently. So I guess he was shot twice, which I think is hilarious. So then she's like, okay, let's just do this. Let's try and talk to the guy. And so the next time he comes, she talks to him and says, listen, look at this picture on the fridge. And he goes and grabs the picture and says, oh my gosh, so it must not have been you. I think it's a little weird that he just buys it so immediately,
Yeah,
but
that's
whatever.
quick.
It's whatever. Let me tell you, the story's a mess. If that's your big hang-up, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. So they talk, and eventually she's like, when... And the guy, Hitman, says, when your father died, he was saying, monster, monster. And she's like, oh, monster, that was what they called my stepbrother, who he had in the affair with my nanny. And the guy's like, huh, the nanny. Okay, I'm going to investigate this. I'm going to try and find where your stepbrother is. And I'm going to start with your nanny. But I can't remember her name. Can you? And she's like, no, I can't either. Which is weird. This person was apparently critical and evil. They cannot remember the name of, nor can they remember the name of the stepbrother, incidentally. So, what was her name? The name was like a flower. Okay, now you might remember 5 minutes ago, or something like that, I said...
Rosebud.
I said that the wife gives you a onesie with your baby's name on it. Right?
Yes.
The baby's name was Dahlia. Dahlia is a flower.
I know.
So you hand... Well, I didn't. So you hand... This is the puzzle that really stumped me. You have to hand the onesie to him when he says the word flower. And then he goes, oh shit, that's right, the nanny's name was Dahlia. And that's when you the characters say, really? Well, Dahlia was my mom's name. And she goes, oh my gosh. Or no, your character goes, wait a minute, Dahlia was my mom's name. Dahlia was the name of the nanny. Holy shit, the nanny is my mom. Oh my god, I married my stepsister and got her pregnant. Holy shit. And so you go back in time.
East.
So you go back in time, and eventually you discover by talking with your wife that you shot your father. You shot your father and married your sister, which Willem Dafoe actually says. It's my favorite line in any game ever. He says, "You murdered your father and married your sister." And if my wife wasn't sleeping in the same room, I would have probably laughed so hard that would have woken up the entire neighborhood. And so, eventually, like, you go back in time and you see the scene where you kill the father, but then you see another scene where your father, who also looks like Agent 47 and Willem Dafoe, which is weird. I don't know why he sounds like Willem Dafoe and looks like him. And there's some theories online. I think to state any of them authoritatively is bunk, but whatever. He basically like makes you forget that you did all of this, so that you can live your life with your incest baby in peace. So, in long story short, the fact that Hideo Kojima loves this game is really no surprise.
Yeah, that's not a surprise.
It really makes a lot of sense.
The questionable reviews also make a lot of sense now, because that's some questionable subject matter.
Yeah, it's it's whatever. I don't think any of it is beyond the pale. There's some articles about like the sketchiness of what. When I say that, I mean in terms of like.
Please note, we do not have sisters.
I was about to say, yeah, good thing you're 3 brothers.
Yeah.
Okay, when I say that, I mean like I don't think any of them are like you should not be able to talk about them in the game. It's whatever.
CWC over here.
And I don't think the game handles. I mean, the game is stupid beyond belief, but I don't think the way that it handles that is like so bad and so evil that it should be like condemned. And I've certainly seen some articles that suggest that, and some articles that suggest that the game should be condemned for the fact that some of the puzzles involve you possibly drugging or stabbing your wife to death. Listen, it's a time loop game.
Remember when people like Jack Thompson were laughed at?
I know.
Something funny to think about.
I know, and like I get it, those are like bad things, but the game does not absolve your character. Like you're clearly a bad person, and you feel terrible when you do those things. So I think in that way, the game accomplishes what it wants to. I think it opens up some interesting time-traveling ethics questions. So, anyways, to wrap up, my favorite bit in this game, because I have to defend why I love this game somehow, because obviously the story is ridiculous, which is part of why I love it, to be honest.
I mean, you're selling me on the game.
I do love some of the way that the game commits to its gimmick. And I love that some of the apartment is very small, but there's so many little details that are just really thoughtfully explored in fun ways. And some of them advance the story, and some of them do absolutely nothing. You can open every vent in the house, and your wife will get real pissy about it. But half of the vents don't do anything; they're just there. You can like put candles in them and put a phone in there and make like a little altar, but it doesn't do anything. It's just for fun. My favorite dead end is. At some point, you get the hitman's phone, and you look through it, and you see his text messages, and he's like talking to his wife or his daughter. Sorry, I mean in this game, who knows? But it's conversation with his daughter who has cancer, and she has cancer, and there's text from his insurance company that's like, hey, you need to pay up or whatever. Not like that because it's an insurance company. It's very official. But you can call the insurance company, and my favorite bit in the game is that at some point you're so desperate for progressing the story that you're like, let me just try it. So you call the insurance company, and if you call them at the start of the loop, it'll do the thing like all of our agents are helping other customers, please stay on hold, and then it has some terrible hold music. And you can experience, like if you go through the entire time loop on the phone, you will never get to speak to an agent. So it's just like talking to a real insurance company. I thought it was a fun bit.
I like that. That's clever.
That's good. Like, and I stuck through it all 12 minutes. I mean, you can fast forward, so I didn't really sit there for 12 minutes. But it literally just plays the same dialogue and has the same voice recording over and over and over.
That's really smart.
On a similar line, like when you call the cops, like I talked about last time, the cops tell you it's going to be about 15 minutes till they get there. You're like, it's a 12-minute loop. Shit. So I liked a lot of those things that are maybe not essential to the story. And you know what? I love that they committed to how stupid this story was. I think a lot of people wanted it to be like a really great narrative, which I liked, but the way that the game shits itself is so triumphant. It's like a toddler who poops his pants and then like does a little dance about it. It's so great. I
Are
can't.
you speaking from recent experiences?
Oh, absolutely. I can't be mad at this game. It's gonna be on my favorite games of the year list. Absolutely, it's gonna be near the top. I love it.
It
It's
sounds so
stupid.
crazy that I kind of want to see it myself.
Yeah, I told you I want to stream this because now I can probably speedrun it in like an hour. Because like the critical path, if you do it, is not that long, and I think it's worth seeing, even if you know the story. Like I explained this story to my wife because I had to, and I've told her I'm gonna make her sit there and watch it. And when I do, I will stream it so you can see it because it's bonkers. It's crazy. You should see it.
So you basically been playing a soap opera these past week.
Well, I played that 2 weeks ago,
Oh,
so kind of.
okay.
But yeah, love that game. Absolutely recommend it. But don't expect anything great. Just expect something supremely interesting.
All right, so I guess let's get on to the news.
Well, I thought we'd do a little something special this week. Something I like to call the worst week in Derek history.
Oh no, not my history.
First up this week, sad news from the East as Takashi Mochizuki and Zhiping Huang of Bloomberg write that Toshihiro Nagoshi, creator of Derek's beloved Yakuza franchise, is in final negotiations to defect to communist China's sweatshop NetEase. Goodbye, Yakuza.
Hello, NetEase. Oh my god. This is sad. I mean, Sega kind of should empty the vaults to keep this guy. You'd think Yakuza's become like a big tentpole for them.
Too bad their vault's full of just like candy
Yes,
and
it's
Just
like unsold
cobwebs.
copies of Sonic and the Black Knight.
Yakuza's got they're kind of like a factory at this point, and they kind of could know what they're doing. So I think the franchise itself will be fine, but the stories are so good. So I'm kind of curious where they'll go from here.
I'm less worried about Yakuza and more about this guy. Like, I'm sure the money will be exceptional, but I imagine in terms of quality of life, going from Sega to a company like NetEase, without knowing too much, doesn't seem good
No,
to me.
no, but if he gets paid well, it's
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah, it'll set him up well financially, but you're working for a giant Chinese conglomerate that's very invested in taking over the world. So
yes. So
it's different than Sega.
yeah, so I really wish Sega would have opened the coffers for this guy.
There's still time.
There's still time, I suppose.
And I would think that dynamics would be interesting going from a Japanese developer to a Chinese developer. Those are very different environments
Yes.
and cultures, which, needless to say. So I imagine his family might have something to say about this.
I would think
That
so.
or he's working remotely.
Yeah, I would say, like, if you can work remotely, I guess. Sure.
I mean, can you imagine moving from Japan to China?
No!
Jesus.
no,
No,
I can't.
that'd be rough. It'd be a rough,
Especially a COVID
rough road to
time.
hoe.
I think the franchise will ultimately be okay. It's just sad to see him go.
Well, it's been a rough week for Derek's beloved WWE franchise, too, according to Sports Gamers Online's
Now that's a funny
Straw.
line.
Cheston, take it away.
Okay, so here's the skinny. WWE 2K20 was a disaster.
One of the worst games ever made.
And it was bad. Like, glitchy, not fun, exploitative of its players, as usual. DLC practices and whatnot, collector's editions, all that jazz. And it just launched in a horrible state. It was like the butt of internet jokes for a month after it came out.
I would say that when it launched, it was in a state comparable to Sonic 2006. Not
Yes.
as bad,
Whoa.
but comparable.
Yeah, it's bad.
And this is for
especially
wrestle-
for a,
Yes.
yeah, especially for an annual release that hasn't largely changed for 7 years or whatever, or longer. So it was so bad that they actually canceled the follow-up. This is a yearly release, so this is unprecedented. They canceled WWE 2K21. They said no. And they promised to return this year, which they announced earlier this year, WWE
Before you
2K22.
get farther, I'm going to say
Mhm.
WWE was not happy about canceling last week.
No, I was going to get to that. So 2K22 was announced this year, And then during the annual SummerSlam event, which I will add parenthetically, did not seem to be very entertaining, they quietly announced that instead of releasing in October, as is tradition, or November, as is tradition, in the fall, around the Survivor Series pay-per-view, they announced that the game would be coming out in March of 2022.
AKA Q4 2021.
Right. And this is all a part of an ongoing story about WWE being very displeased with this license. It kind of dates back actually to before 2K20, when the previous developer Ukes was banding about the idea that they were making a second wrestling game, not WWE related, and that was when WWE pulled them from the license and kind of jettisoned them into outer space. And then they obviously weren't happy with 2K20 releasing in its state, and they're really not happy that this game is being delayed. The story that Setzer linked here from Sports Gamers Online talks about the fact that WWE was very insistent that this game come out on its usual time frame, and only relented after a lot of back and forth with 2K. But they've also made it very clear that the way that this game performs will have a huge impact on the future of this license going forward.
Don't buy this
so
game.
Derek, that's a lot to ask you this. How are you feeling about WWE 2K22?
Okay, so this is a very loaded question. This franchise sucks ass. It has sucked ass for a long time.
A very long time. Since 2013.
Yes. So the best thing that they could possibly do is jettison these guys. Like, they suck. They suck, and they will always suck. However, I gotta take their side on a couple things here. One, they're absolutely in the right to delay this game. It probably isn't prime time ready.
No.
And also, WWE has cut a ton of their roster, so whatever they put out in September would be so heinously out of date that would bring mockery right away.
Yeah, there's a great quote in here about this being the most outdated roster of all time. Because this game is always outdated by its nature.
They were right to request a push, and WWE was wrong to be butthurt about no 2K21. That game needed a break. They needed to get their shit together. That said, they're not going to. They're incompetent people. They don't know what they're doing.
Yes.
I hope this game flops. I want to see someone else get a shot at it. I feel bad that you can only do so much of a yearly property where people are begging you to get shit out even if it sucks, but you got to give it to someone else at this point. They've just proven they're incompetent.
Yeah, I think this is one of those rare cases where both sides really suck. 2K sucks for reasons you've mentioned. They also have taken the series in a very unsavory direction, like their NBA games, where they lock a lot of content behind a long grind to try and get players to pay money to unlock things.
Yes, and
which is terrible.
They get butthurt when you point that out. Oh, there's no deal.
Yes.
You don't have to pay for it.
Yes, you don't have to. There's literally a thing in the game. You pay $5, I think, or maybe it's $10 now, to unlock every character in the game, just so you don't have to play the single player content.
The single player content is dog shit.
Yes,
it's
straight always
up bad.
Yeah, so 2K obviously has done a lot wrong with this license, which is saying something because when this license transitioned from THQ to 2K, a lot of people, ourselves included, were excited because THQ had also done a lot of bad things with the license. Had really the game had really run its course by the time they were done, and it ran its course way quicker with 2K, immediately actually.
When 2K got it, it was exciting because they NBA 2K was really hot at the time. It seemed like they knew what they were doing. They weren't lazy and incompetent. They seemed like they were good at their jobs.
To quote Alex Navarro, formerly of Giant Bomb, they learned the lesson that THQ learned a lot quicker, which is that you don't have to do anything in these games. We'll sell.
Yeah, they learned it after one time because they put out. Well, actually, I think it was the first PS4 one, which was so barren and dog shit and empty that they're people still bought this despite.
Oh, it's terrible.
Despite it having no content. Well, I guess we'll just make it bad each year.
Mm-hmm. And on the other side, the WWE has really been bumbling as of late as a company, and really have always been bumbling with this license. I'm kind of surprised because their business model has basically become milk our most loyal fans. And if you've never met WWE fans, they are like console fanboys to the nth degree. Like, they will defend anything that this company does.
There's no more abused fan base than WWE fans.
And they have major Stockholm syndrome. And WWE has really smartly monetized them over the years with, WWE Network and merch sales. Like, that is how they get their druthers. Like, they make a lot of money off of these same people. And so I don't really get why they don't just give whoever has their license time to make a single game, like Destiny style, and just allow that developer to iterate on it with microtransactions out the wazoo. But I really think that's like, instead of making a game each year, you make one game and you continue to release, individual characters or whatever for however much money that you want to get. And you could get, trust me, you could charge quite a bit and people would be fine with it.
The problem is that they know these people are dumb idiots and will pay $59.
Yeah, they'll pay.
No offense to Goose. I know that you're a big fan of these.
He knows. He knows.
But they know that people will pay $59.99 for garbage.
He knows that this is a flaw in his own person, that he buys these games year in and year out.
Yeah.
And it tells you something that after the last one, I think even he has had some hesitation about 2K22. Like, it's pretty rough.
My plea is Microsoft. Please, please, please put this on Game Pass. Please, so I can play it without paying anything. So I can come back and be like, this game sucks.
Yeah, because Redbox doesn't do games anymore, does it?
Because it used to be when I would ask for wrestling games for Christmas, I'd always put on my list please buy this used. I do not want to give the developer money. And I never got them as a result. But
even used, it's a lot to ask.
Yes, but that's I have not wanted to give these people money for years. I find them scumbags. So
I find this whole thing fascinating. I personally, as someone who no longer watches WWE because I think it sucks, I have much less investment than I used to, but I still want to see how this pans out.
I like wrestling games. That's the thing.
Yeah, I want there to be good wrestling games, and honestly, the AEW game doesn't look that great to me either. We'll see.
We don't like Ukes either.
We don't like Ukes. So wrestling games are in a bad way. Yeah. Long story short.
But boy, CM Punk's back. So
yeah, let's transition to another thing that's always broken, huh?
Yeah.
Well, on that note, not even Derek's beloved Sonic franchise will escape this week unscathed, as Wesley Yinpool of Eurogamer reports on the rampant graphical glitches and bugs of the remaster's early access program.
It comes out on Tuesday, so it's
if you reserved it, you could play it 3 days early, right?
Yes, it was the special premium edition, so the people that are really into Sonic did that. This port being broken is completely baffling to me, because this is a Wii game, and it's seems to be loading at takes a minute and a half to load levels on the Switch.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the Switch has handled Wii games. Skyward Sword came out and is, for all intents and purposes, is a perfect port. So, yes. I don't understand this. And I've also heard that the other next-gen versions aren't perfect either.
Well, I'm sure they're not.
Which is crazy. That's crazy. You should not contract a developer named Blind Swirl.
I'm just saying, yeah, you're right about that. Sega's got a couple franchises that they're known for, and Sonic is one of them. So you'd figure, with as much shit as Sonic has been through, you'd want to get a port of the one game people actually like of 3D Sonic. You'd figure they'd try to do it right, but nope.
I like my theory that they have decided to port this game and ruin it, so it makes more sense, because it was always kind of weird that they made Sonic Colors not bad back in the day.
That was strange.
So now they have to fix history and make it bad.
It broke a trend.
Yeah, they did. It's shameful though, because I was really ready to embrace the idea that Sega had retconned Sonic being bad with that concert, but now they're just going back on it. Now Sonic is bad again.
I know I will buy this eventually because I'm a degenerate and I enjoy Sonic for whatever reason.
Yeah, if it goes on sale,
the
40
blue
is a lot to ask.
makes me happy. So,
yeah. Yeah. But, no, this game I'm sure will be fine at some point.
Yeah, it'll get patched eventually.
I hope.
But the real thing is, it made me think, goddamn, Sonic Mania was a great game. Sonic Team had nothing to do with it, of course, because it was a great game.
And then they immediately said, "We will never make a game like that again."
That's right. They will never do it because someone else made a good Sonic game. And they're like, we can't have it. We can't do it. So it's just frustrating because I've been playing a little bit of Sonic. Well, I've been playing a lot of Sonic, but I've been playing Sonic Mania, and that game rules. It's so good. And like, it's just such a damn shame that
it seems like a mistake.
Well, Sega had nothing to do with it, so that's why it's good.
Well, right, and I think they just like, oh, fine, we'll make a game that's in the classic style. Get that weirdo we have do those iPhone ports.
Well, the only reason they allowed it to like exist is because the ending, the true ending, like ties into Sonic Forces, the game they really wanted to do well.
Yeah.
And I'm the only person alive that likes Sonic's Forces.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is I would say it's surprising, but it's Sega and they're weirdly dumb. But whatever.
Next on the chopping block, Derek's beloved Horizon franchise, which garnered some bad publicity this week after developer Guerrilla Games announced that unlike other cross-generation games, Horizon Forbidden West would not offer a free upgrade path from the PS4 purchase to the PS5 purchase. Instead, players would have needed to purchase an upgraded edition at an extra cost. Guerrilla backed down just days later, now promising to provide a free upgrade from the PS4 version to the PS5. Inexplicably, however, the PS5 version is still priced $10 higher than the PS4 version, so, buy the PS4 version, upgrade to PS5, and save $10.
Yeah, that's what I plan on doing. But I mean, that's also why, like, I think Sony announced shortly thereafter that the games going forward will be the $10 upgrade fee. And it's probably because of people like me that's like, why would I pay $10 extra? And my answer to that is, why are you charging $10 extra for the PS5 version? Like, that's so stupid.
They really lawyered their way out of it. Like, the wording on that is really, like, we promised that all of our launch window games would be free upgrades. But even though Horizon was pushed out of the launch window, we're going to honor that. Like, I don't remember them specifying launch window, and if they did, God, their lawyers are good.
They did not specify that.
Okay, I didn't figure they did.
I think the whole reason for this is that these are their rationale was, we're upgrading old games. This is a new game, so you're gonna have to pay new game prices for this.
Well, to be fair though, like, their upgrades so far, other than those first launch window PS5 games, haven't been free upgrades. Like, isn't Ghost of Tsushima like $30 if you want?
It adds,
like, the update.
The difference is, though, that adds DLC.
Yeah, but you have to buy that if you want the upgrades, right? Or do you not?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because Ghost of Tsushima got a PS5 patch, like, quickly, that boosted the frame rate to 60.
I just don't see why it's got to be so confusing.
Again, I can't help but feel very pessimistic about this because no one gives a shit about this stuff anymore. Like, I feel like back in the Xbox One days, if Microsoft announced something like this, people would be shitting all over it. But it's just not that time anymore. People are just so brand loyal for Sony, they'll just take it. So it sucks.
Yeah. Setzer, I have a tech question for you.
Let's hear it.
Because here's my problem with it. Because I've seen Sony ponies bring this up as a defense of their beloved. So here's my thinking on it. When you buy Horizon Zero Dawn 2, or whatever the hell it's called,
Forbidden
for the PS4,
West.
Okay, let's say you buy the digital version. So you're buying a client, right? You're buying a digital client for this game. You have no physical property.
Well, technically, you're buying a license to download and play the client.
Correct. You're buying a license for the client in the same way you would buy like a license for Photoshop or whatever. I don't know.
Yes.
Okay. So when you play it on the PS4, of course, it automatically, knows that you're playing on a PS4, and it plays like a PS4 game. And in theory, in my head, what should happen is if you play it on the PS5, the game should be optimized in such a way where it goes, hey, you're playing on a PS5. Okay, we can turn this and that setting up. In the same way that when you buy a PC game, like say I bought Hitman on my current PC, which used to be your PC, when I played that game, it automatically detected, hey, these specs are a little out of date, so we're going to turn this and this back. But I know that if I bought new hardware, it would most likely set some of those things a little bit higher because my new hardware can handle it. So my question is, why is this any different? Shouldn't this be the same thing? Shouldn't this just be like a no-nonsense, like, oh, whatever hardware you're playing it on, it just kind of works better?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
So, on the one hand, yes, it would be possible to do something like that. On the other hand, not one to one, because when you are talking about the PC, what you're really talking about is, the x86 and these days x86 64 platform, which is a specific way of constructing a program, right?
Mm-hmm.
An architecture. And no matter how much, RAM or what video card or CPU you're using within that architecture, it all comes together, right? Now, obviously, I'm sure all the Redditors listening to this are going to freak out and say, well, actually, there are limits to how much RAM. That's not my point. My point is x86 64 is the same language no matter what hardware you're plugging into it. Basically, the drivers talk to the OS. Da 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 da.
Okay.
In the sense of a console, though, you have very big architectural differences, and so if you were to, it's not as simple like. In the PlayStation's case, Sony's always talking about, oh, we have this dedicated sound chip on the PS5, and we've got the adaptive triggers, and all that stuff takes a human being to sit down and think about how is Horizon Forbidden West going to take advantage of that. Ray tracing, we've got all these ray tracing capabilities. How is my game going to take advantage of that? And it's, the architecture between these consoles is different.
So does the Xbox stuff work so well just because those architectures are pretty similar to each other? Because when I put in Borderlands 3, which is a Xbox One game, it immediately said, oh, you're playing on a Series X, so here's all these perks.
Well, as the only person with a PS5 here, let me tell you how it works for PS4, PS5 games. They're different downloads. Like
That's right, yes.
I can go in and download FF7 PS4 right now, and it'll just be the PS4 version. So
this was a very stupidly designed system if backwards compatibility was in mind.
Not
or no?
necessarily.
Okay.
There are different ways to look at it. Nintendo, I know that when they do backwards compatibility, what they do is they run an emulator of the old hardware on the new hardware, right? And they try to get as close to one-to-one compatibility as possible. In the case of Sony, there's always the trade-off. Even today, even in the PC world, we're just still, weaning off the 32-bit OS platform, right? There's always sacrifices to be made in the name of, do we want to push forward or do we need to maintain backwards compatibility? Sony clearly felt that things like their sound chip and other features were so important that, if it breaks PS4 compatibility, then so be it. I think a lot of these games that are, cross-generation, they basically are just ports. And in that regard, they're not doing a whole lot to, really push the limits of this new hardware and this new architecture that accompanies it. You probably do need a separate binary and a separate code base to, work in a cross-platform manner. But how much work it is to, really develop that separate binary for the next gen console, whether that's worth the $10 or whatever, that's questionable to me. I think this is really just a way to kind of push people into the $70 mindset. You know what I mean?
Right.
It doesn't need to exist, by the way. $1 billion industry.
What's really crazy to me about this is that if that's how Sony designed their platform, whatever, then it seems dissonant with their strategy that they're making all these games cross-platform.
Yeah, like I said, they're not...
And not just this game, the next several first-party games they've announced are cross-platform. And that doesn't line up with what you're saying to me. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think that really the reason it seems dissonant is because Sony is overstating the amount of work that's really going into these kind of
Of course.
ports
Yeah.
in an effort to justify charging for it. But I'm not a man on the inside. I don't know the economics behind it. But frankly, I think that just given the state of things, they can eat the cost of developing a separate binary for PS4 and PS5 versions of Horizon Forbidden West. I'm sure
but those
that's
haptic features.
very expensive to take advantage. I mean, it probably is quite expensive to develop, taking advantage of enhanced audio, ray tracing in particular.
Dual sense.
60 frames per second.
You can feel the bow snap.
That might be okay for a slow moving sort of game like Horizon.
You think that game's slow moving? What the hell? What game did I freaking play?
I think it's slow, yeah.
In comparison to like a first-person shooter, it absolutely.
Well,
is
yes,
slow.
okay, all right.
Or
That's
Monster
fair. That's
Hunter.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, hey, I don't play these crazy games.
you should.
Yeah, I probably should. You're right. Instead of Horizon, in fact.
Amen.
Yeah, so thanks for answering that question, because I feel like any time I see Sony ponies, my instant predilection is to be like, okay, they're actually massive idiots, and so whatever they say must be wrong. So it's good to know that it's a little more nuanced, but they're still kind of wrong.
I mean, there are definitely technical considerations that would motivate them to, develop separate versions, unlike on PC game.
But it's mostly
That
financial.
being said, given how much money they make and the current state of their, perception, they could definitely eat the cost and not be really any worse for wear.
They don't
I
care.
mean, again, I'm not a business guy, but that's just how it seems to me from the outside.
Yeah, you're not a business guy because you're not defending this as like, well, they should just do it. Just profit.
These game companies can't afford to charge less than $70. They're starving in the streets, these devs.
Yeah, Bobby Kotick, he hasn't had a sandwich for weeks. I actually get a lot of joy out of watching these console fanboys like backpedal for their beloved corporations. It is amusing sometimes.
And finally, on the worst week in Derek history, his beloved Deathloop franchise released a trailer
what?
explaining exactly how it makes use of the PS5 special features,
Hey, well, this seems more like a Setzer story.
including the dreaded adaptive triggers.
Yes, Deathloop is all about the haptics.
It's so stupid.
I love that you described it as Derek's favorite, one of Derek's favorite franchises.
Beloved
You know,
Deathloop franchise.
I've got Deathloop guy posters on my wall. Yeah, I'm ready for people to move past the adaptive trigger thing. Like when everyone kind of decided not DualSense. What was it called on PS3?
Six axis?
Yeah, yeah.
But they immediately hated that.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Well, but there were people thinking like it was cool and potential future of things. There were people.
Yeah, there were.
I
I know.
You may not
You're
like
right.
them, but they
You're right.
existed.
Well, it happened with the Wii and the Kinect. Yeah.
So I'm waiting until people just like realize this is gimmicky bullshit that sucks. Like there are situations where like the haptics would be cool. Like as I was saying, like in Horizon, it may not be bad because like feeling the resistance of pulling back a bow would be it's probably okay. You know what I mean? But I do not need a gun to like shut down on me while I'm firing at it in a first-person shooter. That is not fun. It's not like immersive. It would get obnoxious after a while.
Those kind of things take me out of the experience more than
Yeah.
anything. Because then I remember that I'm holding, this flimsy piece of plastic in my hands. Those gimmicks like Rumble, all that stuff has never done much for me. So
Yeah, like it's cool that the controller's trying things, but it's just gimmicky bullshit. I just don't care about it.
I'm sure it could be fun sometimes. I just the fervor around it from some people I think is crazy.
I mean, personally, as someone who doesn't play a lot of console games, I think adaptive triggers are like the coolest thing I've seen in consoles in a long time. I mean, what else what other innovation has really come out of consoles?
That's the thing, though. I don't
Lights
want
on the controllers.
I don't necessarily want controller innovation. That's my thing. Like,
Yeah.
I kind of like how they play.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you.
Now I will say, like, if you're wanting to talk about haptics in VR, where VR the whole thing is like losing yourself in the immersion, yes, I think that is a good fit for it. But like when I'm sitting on a couch playing, like let's say bring back Sonic again. let's say I'm playing Sonic and like for whatever reason you run into like an obstacle and all of a sudden like the joystick doesn't move forward as much as you want.
Do not put ideas in their head.
Because Sonic is not moving full speed, so you got to slowly tilt it, and the joystick is giving you pushback. That would suck ass. But if you're like in a VR setting where you're supposed to be immersed, that would be okay. But for just playing a game on a couch, no thanks. I'm just not interested.
Let me present a compromise
Okay.
between the two of you, which is to say, and I'm not sure if Setzer's playing devil's advocate or if he's being genuine, but whatever.
No, I'm genuine. I
Okay,
really
alright.
like.
Okay, so both things can be true. One, it is a cool idea, but much like activity cards and other console-specific gimmicks, or let's say mechanics, it's going to be one of those things that developers that are not Sony don't know how to do, and so it's just going to become cheap and tawdry, like motion controls on the Wii, or like anything else that's like this. Like, it'll be used well by the platform holder, but then everyone else will just be like, oh crap, oh that's right, we gotta find a way to do this. So
I mean, it reminds me of like when Uncharted came out on the Vita and they had you like messing with the back touch panel to stay balanced. Like, it's just gimmick stuff.
some people will make good use of it. I don't really think this is it.
Well, I mean,
Well, let me tell you this: the same things were said about analog joysticks back
Fair,
in the day.
I'm sure.
Well, look, I
I'm
could
sure.
be. Hey, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's fine. But I'm just saying, like, how I like to play games, it doesn't really mesh with me.
Yeah. No, I.
And
can see
I'm
that.
not really the target for this because, again, like I said, I hate Rumble. I think it's stupid. So
Rumble rules. You're on the wrong side of history on this one.
nah, I think it sucks.
Well, then you'll never play Star Fox 64 again.
Well, sure I will. I just won't use my Rumble pack.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Always got to have one lying around, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose you do.
You know, we didn't have a Rumble pack. Isn't
We
that
didn't.
weird?
That's because
Strange.
I guess that's kind of my gimmick, isn't it? That I'm against gimmicky bullshit, because I think the reason I didn't want a Rumble pack was that I thought it was gimmicky. And then
I think you were right.
when more games got it, I was like, I kind of like Rumble.
Well,
So-
when it was just in the controller,
Yeah.
and it wasn't like this weird accessory you had to buy Star Fox 64 to get.
Hey, you know what? If a game comes out and it like makes me see the beauty of haptics, I'll admit it. Like I was like ready and raring the shit on Psychonauts 2. Like, and I love that game. So if something proves me wrong, I'll happily say I was wrong. But for the big showcase haptics game, which is Astro's Playroom, that did nothing for me. So we'll see.
Wait, what's this? There's something else left on the docket. I can't quite make it out. Could it be an opportunity for me to rant about Destiny once again?
Oh
Well,
no!
You know, it's only fair. We had wrestling talk this episode.
That's
we gotta
true.
have Destiny talk.
The monkey's paw
Gotta pay the
curls.
tax.
Yeah, I gotta pay
Yeah.
the tax. The troll toll.
Well, Bungie released an expose on the game's upcoming Witch Queen expansion, and given how I've seen this be received, I think it's time for a reality check. Okay, 1.
Reality check.
Bungie has shown absolutely no signs that they can produce a story campaign comparable to Titanfall 2 or Doom, as they said in their expose, within the Destiny framework. I am sorry, but 4 or 5 10-minute story missions where you just do Destiny stuff is not going to cut it. Okay? Destiny does not have that complex of a loop, and it sure cannot offer that kind of variation that those games do. So I have no clue why they're setting expectations that high. 2. Glyphs are going to be comparable to bows. They will find their niche, but they will not disrupt the meta. You will not be running a 3 glyph build in raids. 3. Remember when Bungie was intentionally vague about major features like transmog and the return of Trials PvP? Does that not make you wonder why they're being so vague about weapon crafting? It is going to be a shitfest. 4. Stasis subclasses are going to be left by the wayside as the light subclass updates leapfrog them with additional melees, supers, keywords, aspects, and fragments. Stasis will not be brought up to par for years. 5. You will still be wasting your time grinding power level, praying for power level slot RNG, sharding blues, swapping armor elements and mods manually, rearranging your overstuffed vault, and so on. 6. You will be paying more money than ever before to do so. The Witch Queen may bring some interesting updates, but it will not be the panacea people are hoping it to be, and Destiny is never going to have that moment. It's time to accept it, or let go.
Okay, I have a Destiny question.
Shoot.
It's the same way that I had a tech question. Because I did not watch the video that you shared with us, because
That's fine.
I did not have a chance. But I did read the Destiny the Game subreddit to get a feel for some of this stuff, because you told me it's funny, and you were right,
Yes.
it is. So, one of the things in this is that they have now put Trials of Osiris, which is PvP, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they have put that behind a paywall.
Mm-hmm.
And fans seemed happy about this. 2 things.
Yeah.
1, why are fans happy about this? 2, does this have a monthly subscription that I didn't know about? Because I thought this game was free.
Okay, so we're gonna tackle this in reverse order. 2, the core Destiny game, which is almost nothing at this point, given how much content they removed from the game in the last expansion, that is free, okay?
Okay.
Any content that has ever been bundled with an expansion or DLC is not free, and you must still purchase the corresponding expansion or DLC.
Okay.
Moreover, every 4-ish months is a new season of Destiny, and each season has a $10 season pass. Now, not all of the content that is released at the start of a season requires the season pass, but some things do, and we will leave it at that. Moreover, because this season, before the new expansion, is 6 months long, they're releasing a $30 anniversary celebration pack in December that has a new dungeon, which previously all dungeons have always been, free with the expansion. You didn't have to buy anything extra after you paid for the expansion to get the dungeons. And a ton of cosmetics and some exclusive weapons that are getting a lot of hype.
Now, one thing I will say is that I did watch this video for some reason, because I took nothing away from it because I had no idea what the fuck was going on. But one thing I noticed is that the 30th anniversary of Bungie is the 30th anniversary of non-Halo Bungie. So it's very funny when you see like Oni front and center. I'm like, holy shit.
Allegedly, they tried to get Microsoft to go in and let them, use some Halo stuff, and Microsoft wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
so.
Fat chance of that, guys. But I just got a big chuckle, like, holy shit, like they had to dig for Oni. I'm a big fan. I like that sort of thing, but I was like, wow.
I would have think they would have just said, oh, remember, it was just Marathon. It's just Marathon.
Anyway, question 1, why people are so excited for Trials to have a paywall?
Mm-hmm.
So Trials of Osiris is like the creme de la creme, hardcore PvP mode. It only opens up on weekends, and probably like a third of the time it has to be closed down because people are cheating or exploiting. And it's got exclusive loot if you can, accomplish this like ball-bustingly difficult PvP, almost like a tournament style. You have a card, you have to get 7 wins in a row, 0 losses. There's no matchmaking. You have to go in with 3 players that you sign up with, and there's no like skill-based matchmaking to control who you're matched up against, right? This has been a feature of Destiny for a long time. It was in Destiny 1, and when Destiny 2 launched, they tried to replace it with a similar mode called Trials of the Nine that flopped, and then they just took out hardcore PvP for like 2-3 years, and then they added Trials of Osiris back, and it was, a huge flop once again. The reason for that is it is so competitive. It is so competitive that 99% of players cannot succeed in this mode, and they will get literally nothing. So you'll play hours and hours on end and get nothing. Okay?
That reminds me
And
of
you will
old
get
WoW
shit
PvP.
on the whole time.
Yeah.
You will not have any fun. Because only streamers play this mode.
Goddamn gamers.
Yeah. And so they've had, Bungie's been fighting a losing war against exploits like, oh, I'll just suicide to lose all my matches and get the pity reward, which they recently added. Or I'll win trade. There's been a history of like strange, arcane ways of communicating to strangers that you're up to win trade. So, I'll just win trade and get it over with. Or I'll just pay someone to log into my Steam account and play my Destiny account and win for me. I'll do account recovery. And then there's just straight up cheats. Cheating in Trials is rampant, and there's really no way to control that because Bungie's network architecture is a mess, and they haven't implemented like really, top shelf anti-cheat until this season. And one of the reasons cheating was so rampant was if you just ban someone, they'll just make a new free account and cheat instantly. So by putting it behind a paywall and saying you have to pay $40 to play Trials, they're, tamping down on cheating.
I just don't see how this game could be any fun.
It has its moments, it really does. But there's so much inconvenience and so much frustration around just playing the game. There's so much friction from the time you say, yeah, I think I'd like to play some Destiny. I want to run some strikes with my friends. You've got to think about, well, I need to clean out my vault. I need to clean out my post box. I need to, level up my artifact for the season. I need to get to the seasonal power level. I need to, work on my build. I have to, micromanage 20 different stats coming together and armor mods. And then I have to think about, what energy types are required for this dungeon, so I can't just use the guns I want to play with, on and on and on. And that's what frustrates me about Destiny.
WWE should get in the Destiny game. You get a couple of Stockholm Syndrome fan bases together, and you got
CM Punk looter shooter.
That's AEW.
Is he still wrestling?
He just came back
to AEW, the good wrestling promotion.
What about the yes guy?
He's also going to the good promotion.
Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm just saying, we're talking about WWE games and their Stockholm Syndrome fan base. Destiny seems very similar. So if they combined, if WWE dumped 2K for Bungie, I think we would have the ultimate whale game.
Well, hey, Bungie's in bed with Tencent. I'm sure they'll take WWE money too.
Oh, absolutely. WWE takes the Saudi money, so we could get all the.
Oh yes, they have no qualms about taking money from questionable governments.
So
that's kind of their business.
Oh man, I'm just picturing John Cena shooting people. That'd be pretty cool. I think I understand the appeal of Destiny, boys.
I never will. It sounds like a mobile game in a console game's clothing, which
in a lot of ways
is
right.
Gross. I have this thing where as soon as I see 3 or 4 text boxes that I don't understand, then I am done with the game. Destiny's one of those games I know if I open it up. It's how I felt when I played Battlefront 2. There's just so much on the screen that I immediately didn't understand. I'm you know what? This game is probably designed to milk a lot of time, so I'm not going to.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
My time is more valuable than that.
Does a terrible, terrible job of cutting to the chase and getting people into what it's actually about and getting people into the fun and keeping them there as opposed to bogging them down with bullshit.
Yep, I don't get it. I'm glad you're clean.
Just give it time. You'll start getting the shakes soon.
I have a friend on my Xbox that's always playing this game. And I just, every time I see it, I go, oh god, I just can't. Someone help this guy.
Save him.
There's so many better games you could be playing that respect your time.
I guess that'll do it for us this week. You can reach us on Twitter at alltodaypod or on email alltodaypodcast@gmail.com. This is Derek.
Setzer.
And Cheston.
Right, we'll talk to you next time. Goodbye.
Adios.
Bye.